Hey, Real Perspectives listeners. I'm your host, LaTanya Moore, and we have Warren Eckstein. He is an internationally known pet and animal expert. He developed his unique approach for understanding animal behavior by combining different techniques he learned and observed while working in Southeast Asia and Europe. He's devoted over 35 years to teaching both pets and their people to live happily together through his unique hugs and kisses approach to animal behavior care and training. His clients include celebrities like David Letterman, Cheryl Tiegs, Lily Tomlin, Geraldine Ferraro, Al Pacino, Rodney Dangerfield, and Phylicia Rashad, just to name a few. He's a pet therapist and media personality with more than 30 years of experience helping people, again, and their pets in the media front. So he's a contributing pet and animal editor for NBC's Today Show. For years, he was the regular pet and animal expert for the national television show Live with Regis and Kathie Lee. He has also appeared weekly on the Discovery Channel and from his appearances as the creature keeper for Disney's Channel new Mickey Mouse Club. So he's here today to share with us how to build healthy relationships with our pets. So okay, Warren, so I'm a dog fanatic. Welcome to our show. But
I'm tired just from hearing the introduction.
Wow, and you've done so much. I mean, how could I not talk about all the great things that you do? But I know that I'm a dog fanatic. I know that you deal with all type of pets. But talk with us a little bit about your experience in Southeast Asia and Europe that got you into this area.
You know, I was stationed over there for a while, and when I was stationed in Europe, you know, being on an Army or an Air Force base all the time, I had to get out, and my getting out was finding all the dogs that I could find around the base in the neighborhood and the dogs I was working with, and just spending time with them. And it occurred to me that probably the most quality time I've ever spent was not with those that walk upright, with those that walk on all fours. There's just no judgment. They accept you for what they are. And I was able to learn a lot of advanced type of training. I don't want to get into too much detail, but Schutzhund training and Polizei training and ring sport training. Then when I came back here to the United States, it was kind of interesting. I told my parents I wanted to be America's first pet psychologist. They tried to get me into therapy real quick. But it's interesting because what I was able to do is my love for animals, I was able to take that and create something that never existed before. No one was ever talking about pet psychology or pet behavior or the relationship between people and their pets. So it enabled me when I came back here to kind of take it further. And it's interesting how I got started, though. I mean, who ever heard of a pet psychologist, and who would ever want to call one? Do you know what penny savers are, the little local newspapers?
Yes.
Well, I took out an ad, and I said to my wife, Faye, who passed away since then, I said to Faye, you know what I have is really interesting, the knowledge, my ability to kind of communicate with animals and people and get them together, but people have to know about me. So I had to do something eccentric, and it's framed on my desk. I'm looking at it right now. I took an ad in a penny saver. This is exactly how it read. It said, "We'll teach your dog Yiddish for $15. That was my ad. and but you're laughing, but the funny part is people responded. So that's how I got started. For $15, Warren would go to your house, and whether you had Cujo or Benji, didn't make any difference. He would resolve whatever issues you were having with your pet, and that's really how it all started.
Wow, I love it because you don't think about these types of things. You know, we've all seen different animal experts, you know, including yourself. And I know for me, when I absolutely loved my dog, unfortunately I had to put her down around Christmas time last year.
So sorry.
Yeah, it trust me, you know, I laugh about my response because I never in a million years would have thought that I would have had that I had that type of attachment. I was like, well, she's my dog, you know, but I say that to say when I first got her, I had no experience with dogs. she was a Rottweiler mix with some type of shepherd. So, imagine that personality. And so just having someone like a Warren to say, this is what you need to do to make sure that you have control of your dog all the time was invaluable. Tell us, I know you've worked with a lot of celebrities and not really pointing out anyone in particular. Tell us about some of the typical issues that you see with pets and pet owners, and what's the underlying issues that you see?
Well, it's the fact that people sometimes have this ego, and they just assume that they're much smarter than the dogs or the cats that they live with, and nothing can be further from the truth. Our dogs and our cats really take on the personality of the people they live with. I often joke about Lily Tomlin, for example. Her dog, you're laughing, but her dog was like working with Sybil. The dog had multiple personalities. But you got to remember that.
No, you're absolutely right. My dog acted just like me. Like I'm laughing because I'm agreeing with you. But yeah, so tell us.
I always say that. Give me 5 minutes with your dog, and I'll know more about you than you'll probably want me to know. But it's real interesting. You brought up the celebrity aspect of it, and in every way, everyone's a celebrity. But when you're a celebrity, someone like a Letterman or an Al Pacino or a Rodney Dangerfield, what often happens is there's so many demands put on you, and you have to always be on. And the only time you can really be yourself is when you're with your dog or with your cat. And that goes for people. We talked about whether it be an attorney, whether it be an accountant, whether it be any professional. The bottom line is, with all the pressures we have on us, it's good to kind of come home and deal with something that could care less if we didn't shave that day, or if our breath is bad, or if we said something wrong. Just love us for what we are. And I think that non-judgmental relationship that people have with their pets is absolutely critical. As a matter of fact, when my first wife passed away in 1990 and I started dating again about a year later, at that point, sit down, you ready for this? I had 26 dogs, 20 cats, and 2 1,200-pound pigs, and assorted chicken stuffs and other things I rescued. So my first date was always bringing that person to my little sanctuary, and I knew how they reacted to the animals and how the animals reacted to them, whether or not there would be a second date. And many times after seeing the 1,200-pound pig, there was only one date. Take it from me.
Wow, I can imagine.
But, the relationship aspect is so critical to me. One of the things that I deal with nowadays is, in fact, I had a question just a week or so ago where a young lady, I guess she was in her mid-20s, called me up and said, Warren, I am in love with this guy. He's absolutely the handsomest, nicest, successful guy I can ever meet, but for some reason, him and my dog don't get along, and if we can't get the dog to get along with this guy, I have to be honest, the guy's gone and the dog's staying. So it was up to me to establish a relationship, a positive relationship between the dog and this guy that she was dating. We were able to accomplish. It's just a matter of things that we did. But on the other end of the spectrum, I'm often called in divorce scenarios by attorneys that will call me and say, Warren, listen, we have a scenario. They're getting a divorce. They both love the dog. The husband wants the dog. The wife wants the dog. We need you to come in and decide what situation the dog would be best off in. And what I found is interesting, and you would like this as an attorney, is that very often it wasn't that they both wanted the dog. It's just that one didn't want the other one to have it, that vendetta type mentality.
Absolutely. It's really sad because it does create a real issue, and I'm glad that you even brought that up, because when you start to think about all of those things, then you also have people that unfortunately will do bad things to dogs or to pets for that very reason. Again, that vendetta mentality. So talk with us, though, about, you sort of bring up that scenario where the home life is making a change, whether that's either bringing people into the home or someone is leaving the home. How, or what are some things that you can share with our animal lovers about how to navigate that? Because dogs are very, at least with dogs, which is my experience, dogs are very territorial. At least I know my dog was. And there were very few people that could really be in close proximity. So talk with us about some ways that those us animal lovers can deal with that scenario.
Two things. First of all, you brought up an interesting point when we're talking just past about the divorce scenario. Here's an interesting situation. With so many situations where women are being abused by men, Now shelters around the country, many shelters around the country, a lot of times a woman would not leave an abusive situation because she was afraid that her dog or cat would not be able to go with her to a sanctuary or a shelter. Also, very often, the abuser will take out their anger on the thing closest to that person, which is often the dog or cat. So now a lot of shelters around the country are accepting women that were in abusive situations. They can bring their pets with them, and I think that's a great thing, gets them out of those abusive situations. Now, in terms of what you were talking about, with all the training that goes on and all the TV shows about dog training and this, the most important thing that a pet guardian can do is socialize their dog or socialize their cat as soon as they get their dog or cat. Now, very often, people will adopt a dog from a shelter or a rescue, which I'm a strong advocate of, and adopt an older pet, and sometimes they can come with a little baggage. But the bottom line with dogs is that their temperaments, their personalities, with a lot of socializing and exposure, can be trained. So I've taken dogs that are, for example, I've worked with some of the Michael Vick dogs that were abused in dog fighting, and now one of them actually is a therapy dog. So the socialization, the exposure, the education is really important, and everyone in the family's got to do the same thing. Here's a perfect example. I go into the typical home, go into your home. The husband tells the dog to jump up. The wife tells the dog to get down. The dog calls me and says, hey, Warren, isn't that the definition of neurosis? So the bottom line is that continuity and everyone treating the dog in a positive way and focusing on the good things. You know, people often say no, no, no to their dog constantly. No, get off the couch. No, don't do this. No, don't do that. I've gone into homes and said no, and the dog comes thinking that's his name. So if people would spend more time when their dog is just doing nothing, being positive, and praising their dog, the dog will realize that they get a lot more attention for being good than for being bad. And just like a child, it just makes the change in their behavior a lot easier.
That's really interesting. It's like we keep saying we're both bringing up interesting points, but when I first got my dog, the place where she was trained, one thing that they taught us is don't treat train. Use affection in replacement of actually, I guess giving the dog treats for doing something positive. And, at first, again, I was a person with no experience at all with dogs, but it really didn't make sense. Their philosophy, though, was that your dog wants that affection from you, and he or she wants that approval, and the best way is physical contact. What do you think about that particular method, not necessarily from a right or wrong standpoint, but just from a therapeutic standpoint for the dog?
Well, my whole approach, my entire reputation is based on hugs and kisses, hugging your pet and kissing your pet. Now, if you want to give your dog a treat, I'm all for giving your dog a treat. However, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen one dog give another dog a milk bone when they did something right? So the bottom line is when they want to show affection to each other, they'll go snuggle with each other, they'll put their paw on top of each other, they'll roll over. All that body language means really important stuff to me. So the bottom line is I don't think that you have to have your dog sing 3 choruses of Ave Maria to give him a 3-cent biscuit and then wonder why when he gets the biscuit he becomes possessive over it. My feeling is if you want to give your dog a treat, give him a treat, but don't make him perform for it. If he does perform something for you, give him a hug and a kiss. He'll be a lot happier.
And I love it because it reminded me again of something you mentioned earlier about adopting older dogs. So I had my dog, and I used to foster dogs for the facility or the organization that trained
God, I like
dog.
You so much more already.
So when I lived in Florida, I used to foster dogs, and there was this one, his name was Hank, that I just absolutely fell in love with. So he was at my house, and I was fostering him, and my dog was at the facility. And so everything was great. And so my son said, can we keep him? And I said, well, I don't know. I never really thought about it, even though we really liked him. Short story, we kept him and sent him back to the place so that they could make sure that he and my dog Duchess would play nice. Well, lo and behold, they played nice. The very first night that they came home, they got into the worst fight. Now, remember, Duchess was a Rottweiler mix. Little Hanky, though, was a cockapoo. So I bring that up for a couple of reasons. One, talk with us about you're bringing in another dog. Let's say you adopt an older dog or a dog that has had at least some level of socialization, positive or negative. You're bringing that dog into now the home. Talk with us about how pet owners can do that, because I bring that up because a lot of times you may have a man and a woman, they're getting married, they both have dogs. Now you're bringing the dog into someone's home probably, or even a neutral home. Talk with us about how you can make that connection work.
But the perfect answer is this. How would you feel if someone were to move into your home and start using your makeup and start using all of your stuff? You wouldn't be too happy about it, right? If some guy moved into my house and went into my garage, it's on. However, the bottom line is this. When you're introducing one pet to another pet, especially dogs, it's important to introduce them on neutral territory so they get to know each other and they're not focused on one dog invading the other dog's territory. So I always recommend, and I'm a big fan of multi-pet households, obviously. So if you want to introduce a second dog to your home, the bottom line is let them get to meet each other for a couple of days at a park, at a beach, at a neighbor's house, somewhere away from where the dogs live. This way that whole thing about challenge is taken over with. Then when they come into the house, there's always going to be that thing about food. Who's going to get the food? So if you're bringing a second dog into the household, one of the things you should be doing is feed each dog out of 2 or 3 dishes instead of one dish, so there's no need to be possessive over food. They realize there's always another dish of food around. And then make sure you spend a lot of time socializing them together and using, and I write about this in my books and on the website, First Pet Psychology. It's no different than children. When you're introducing a new child to a child that already exists, you want to make sure that everyone coming over spends as much time with the child that was already there as the new infant, because the new infant's cuter. So those are some of the tips that I give to people, and it makes all the difference in the world, because the first introduction of one dog to another dog critically should be made on neutral territory to avoid any possessiveness whatsoever.
That's so interesting, because I know, again, and I'm talking more about my experience just so that we can provide examples, but I know that when I had to call them and I said, okay, you guys assured me that these guys were going to work together, and it's not happening, and I'm afraid for the little guy. But everything was fine. It actually did work itself out. But it was some of the things that you mentioned. Although I never had them to eat out of the same dish, Duchess was used to a certain area, for lack of a better word, kind of being hers. So her toys were there, her food was there, her water was there. This was her area. And we brought Hank in, and he wasn't exactly in the same area, but the proximity was closer enough that it caused a lot of issues. And so we had to give him a different area. And once we sort of did that, as long as he didn't venture to her area and she didn't venture to his, it was fine, because everywhere else probably was neutral, because that was our living space. And so they were able to kind of roam free.
See, I would have taken a different approach. What I would have done is I would have made, what was the first dog's name, the Rottweiler mix?
Duchess.
I would have had Duchess think that the greatest thing that ever happened in this world since the invention of dry dog food was the arrival of Hank. So in other words, I would have taken her on trips around the neighborhood. I would have lots of new toys, lots of new treats, and lots of hugging and kissing. I would take her out privately, away from the other dog, away from Hank, just to let her know that, hey, since this dog Hank arrived, things have been pretty darn good around here. I'm getting more attention than I ever received before, as we do with first children as well. And then the child accepts the new baby or the new dog in the household. And the same thing goes with people that are married and they don't have any kids, but they have a dog or a cat, and they're expecting. I wrote an article many years ago for Parents Magazine called What to Expect from Your Pet When You're Expecting. So before the baby arrives, I have them playing with the doll to get the dog used to what a doll is all about, like holding a baby. They give the doll the real baby's name. I have the bassinet, all of the items there. I download the sounds of a baby burping, coughing, whatever babies do to desensitize the dog to the sound of a baby way before the baby ever arrives. So when the baby comes, it's no big deal. The dog's already assimilated to all the things that are going to be around the new baby, and that can make all the difference in the world. That
is really great advice, although I didn't know about it. So
You're like me, always one day behind.
But it's really great advice, and I definitely know that our animal lovers really can take those tidbits. I want to shift a little bit because you have so much to offer, so this definitely will not be the last time that you're going to be on our show. But I do want to shift just a little bit because you have done a great job of kind of marrying the media along with your pet therapy practice. What made you merge those two?
You know, it was nothing I ever pursued. You would not know it now, but I was really shy as a kid. But because of the things I were doing and no one else was doing, I'm talking 30, 35 years ago, no one was doing therapy dogs. They were called dogs for handicapped people back then. I trained the first dog, for example, that was ever trained to detect an epileptic seizure in a person. It's in Massachusetts. So it wasn't that I pursued the media. The type of work I was doing was kind of unique, so the media was kind of coming to me, and little by little it expanded to go from here to there, and then the celebrities came in, and once the celebrities came in, the media wanted to have me for whatever reason. Somehow it's more important to train David Letterman's dog than it is to train Mrs. Smith down the block. I never quite got that. But doing the media kind of helped me out from the perspective it gave me the opportunity to get my ideas across. You know, years ago everyone was into dominating a dog. You got to be the alpha, and I'm against all of that. To me, dogs are part of the family. It's not just the family pet, and they need to be treated that way.
Absolutely, and I know with one reservation that I had with even getting Duchess, because I didn't really tell the story about how I got her, but we ended up with her because a neighbor of mine, we had never had a dog before, but a neighbor of mine had some type of issue, and they had recently gotten her. I don't think they had her 2 weeks before they were going to have to get rid of her, and I was just happened to be talking to this woman, and she was really distraught. She said, you know, we're going to have to take this puppy to the pound.
Yeah.
And my son had been asking for a dog, and I said, well, can I keep her for a few days? Let's just sort of see what happens. Well, she never went home. And she just kind of became our dog. I absolutely fell in love with her, and so the story goes. And
but, you know, the greatest thing you did for your son was having that dog. People don't realize, but when you're a child and you're growing up, there are so many demands put on you. You know, demands by mom, demands by dad, demands by kids your own age, demands by teacher. You know, and kids come home with a lot of different problems and a lot of things on their head. The time that they can really be themselves and just kind of go into their room and close the door and either cry or laugh or cuss or whatever they want to do, they can do it with their dog or cat, and no one's going to bother them. Our dogs and cats are so accepting of whatever personalities or whatever moods we're in. And the suggestion now is that children that grow up with a dog or a cat are much more stable than those that don't. They understand the concept of nurturing, understanding, and giving. So you absolutely did the right thing.
And again, it's you brought up something even more because in 2007 we lost a family member to homicide, and it was so I can't even now express how hard it was. And so, you know, this was something that I had to now, you know, go and talk with my son about. And it's almost like immediately when I walked in the house, like my dog knew that there was something going on. So she literally, everywhere I went, she was just right there. And there was no reason for it except she probably just knew that I was so hurt and just so sad. And so she was, you know, just right there. And you're right, they can really sense those things. And again, I know we're talking about that, but I do want to ask, are these the type of things that people call in? You have a syndicated radio show called The Pet Show with Warren Eckstein. So are these some of the things that people call in and talk to you about? Kind of share with us those, you know, it was funny when I was reading this, I said, this is almost like Frasier. If for those of you that have watched the show, Frasier, that, you know, now we can call in and resolve our dog issues. But what are some of the things that people call and talk with you about that are more personal in nature?
Well, the divorce situation we talked about earlier, you know, I'm in the middle of a divorce and my husband wants the dog and I want the dog. What do we do? Then we get the regular questions. Say, Warren, listen, my dog's peeing on the floor. What do I do? Or the person that wants to adopt a new dog or a new cat, the first pet psychology, plus all the behaviors you can think about. My dog suffers with separation anxiety. I got one the other day. I had no idea what this meant. It was the first time in my career that anyone had ever sent this to me, and I'm trying to look for it as we're talking. It was, my dog is suffering from FOMO. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, I didn't know what it was either, but it seems that it is now a term that means fear of missing out. It's a Kardashian term that the Kardashians use.
Oh God!
Fear of missing out. So
certainly not a formal clinical pet therapeutic term.
No, but if you think about it, if you think about the dog who realized that mom's leaving the house, maybe she's going to the park to play ball with another dog. Maybe I should be out there with her. So I guess in reality, separation anxiety, abandonment issues. Very often, what happens is I'll work with dogs that have been in 2 or 3 homes, and then they wind up back at the shelter. So when they come to that new home where they're loved, every time the person leaves, it's not really separation anxiety, it's the fear that they've been abandoned before, so perhaps that person's never going to come back again. I had a great call last week. They asked me, Warren, why do dogs chase cars? A common question you would think, but it's the first time I was asked. And I had to tell them the reason dogs chase cars is because the dog always wins. The car always runs away. It's the same reason the dog barks at the mailman. The mailman comes to the house, makes noise, the dog barks, the mailman runs away next door. So the dog assumes, I did my job, I barked, I growled, the guy went next door. The same thing with cars. So the gamut of phone calls I get is just unbelievable, whether it be the first pet psychology thing, whether it be a young couple, he has a dog, I have a dog, the 2 dogs hate each other. If I can't get the dogs to get along with each other, we're not going to get married. So it really runs the gamut. And the radio show's been on just over 30 years now. I started when I was 11, just so you know. So the show's been on 30 years, and every week I'm amazed at the type of questions we get asked and how they change. Years ago when I started, every dog in America was Duke, Duchess, Queenie, Blackie, and Whitey. Now it's Sam, Saul, and Harry. It sounds like a poker game on a Friday night, but people are taking their pets, and as I said earlier, as part of the family versus just a family pet.
Absolutely. I'm laughing because of I'm just kind of visualizing. My dog never ran after cars per se. Her vehicle of choice tended to be large trucks, so a cement truck, a garbage truck, an 18-wheeler if they were close by. That was her vehicle of choice for whatever reason. So I get it. I'm so glad you said that, because I used to wonder, like, why does she do that? Why does she have such a response to that? But that makes sense.
Her background might have had part of that too. Like there are certain dogs that over the 4th of July, for example, I get a lot of calls about dogs that are fearful over the sounds of firecrackers, or dogs that are fearful over the sounds of whatever it may be. And I always have people actually you can download any sound you want from the computer now and make a sound of the firecrackers or what the 4th of July sounds like, or even a thunderstorm, and just play it at a low volume, barely audible when you're massaging your dog or schmoozing with your dog, and then over a period of weeks increase it gradually. In the field of psychology, we call it counter conditioning. It's kind of like the child who's afraid of the dog, teaching him that, things are really good in the dog. The dog is really a good place. So sometimes counter conditioning, or taking what a dog is afraid of and actually making it into a positive thing, can make all the difference in the relationship.
Wow, that is really great advice. And, again, you've done such a phenomenal job of marrying media with pet therapy. I absolutely love it. In addition to radio, you've done a lot of things on television. You've made appearances on The Tonight Show, Late Night with David Letterman, Good Morning America, 2020 E, Court TV, so many others. Now, you and some other experts have come together to develop and produce some content for Dog TV. Tell us about that project.
Yeah, try selling that to somebody. We're coming up with a new TV station just for dogs. It's interesting because I was the head psychologist, and there was also the head of Tufts University Veterinary School of Behavior. He was very much involved with it, and also Victoria Stilwell, who's a trainer that has a show on Animal Planet. So this was a lot of years of research. People just think it was frivolous, but a lot of research at Tufts went into the different sounds that dogs react to, how dogs see differently. For example, it's a lot easier for a dog to watch TV in England than it is to watch TV in the United States, because of something to do with the number of dots on the screen, way beyond my pay grade. So when the technology was all done, then I came in and said, okay, well, this is some of the behavioral aspects of it. Now, Dog TV has been up now for, I guess, a couple of years. It's in many, many different countries. A lot of shelters are using it because they found that by having Dog TV on at the shelters, it would just calm the dog down. And it changes every 5 or 10 minutes to a calming. You might see a dog chasing something, and then a dog relaxing. So Dog TV is one of those things that its time was due, and a lot of people have their dogs when they're away because it's a latchkey pet society. We're out of the house 8 hours a day watching dog TV. It really bothers me, though, when I come home and my dog has changed the channel. That really bugs me. He says, I'm not watching dog TV anymore. I'm going right over to Family Feud, Warren. But it's an amazing thing because it does keep them happy. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. It's been really successful in many, many different countries around the world. And, look at it. In the United States alone, 62% of us live with pets. So we're the majority. So anything that makes life easier for pet guardians is a really good thing. And I think dog TV is part of that, as well as many of the new things that are popping up. Dog gyms, doggy daycare, meetings. I mean, I have parties. People have pet parties, birthday party for their dog or cat. At first I thought it was crazy, but you know what? Who am I to judge? If it makes them happy and it makes the dogs happy, go for it. That's the way I live my life.
I love it. And so in addition to that project, you actually founded the Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund, which is a nonprofit organization, and you founded that in memory of your late wife, Faye, who died in 1990. Talk with us about that organization and the mission of that organization.
Well, I serve on the board of directors for a lot of major humane groups and rescue groups all across the United States, and they all do a good amount of work. However, the majority of work that's done saving animals are people you've never heard of. It's the little mom-and-pop rescues somewhere outside of Detroit, for example, or outside of D.C., that you never hear about, but they have a garage sale once a month to raise $50 to spay or neuter an animal. So Faye and I, having been working together for so many years in rescues in different organizations, realized that the need was there for the small mom-and-pops. However, they have no way of raising money. These big groups, you see them advertising on TV, and as I said, they do good work, but they have millions and millions of dollars in the bank. So we decided to set up the Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund as kind of like the United Way for pets. I have the ability versus the media to raise a certain amount of money. So what we do is we take that money and we donate it to the small mom and pop groups around the United States and Canada. And our goal, and this is the logo of, you'll never hear this from any other nonprofit, my goal is to be the poorest humane society in the country, because I don't believe I should have money sitting in the bank if there's one dog or cat suffering. So as soon as the money comes into Hugs and Kisses, it goes right out to help the small mom and pops all around the United States.
That is really awesome. I do want to get your take on, there are different philosophies in terms of where to get a pet. Some people think certain things about, you have the breeder, you have the pet store, you have the Humane Society, you have the rescue. Talk with us a little bit about what you think about those different avenues for a person they're looking at getting a pet. They don't know exactly what to do. You're hearing so many different things about where to get a pet. Talk with us just a little bit about that. What advice would you give those folks?
Well, my first advice is that the ideal scenario is that if you're looking for a pet, you go to your local shelter, your local rescue, your Humane Society, or that stray on the street, bring them home, or that cat in the backyard, bring them home, have them checked by a vet, and turn them into your pet. So that's the ideal scenario. However, there are certain times that people want a specific breed of dog. I am 100% against puppy mills. These are the places that just breed dogs over and over again, where a lot of the dogs, the majority of dogs sold in pet stores, which I'm against, by the way, come from these puppy mills. However, there's been a change, and it's kind of interesting. A lot of pet stores now are no longer selling puppy mill dogs. What they do is they take dogs from the local humane societies and rescues and keep them at their pet shops, and people can come in and adopt the dogs from the shop, and it's good for the pet shop owners because, obviously when a person comes in to adopt a dog, they're going to buy food and a leash and a collar and a bowl and this and that, but at the same time, they're finding homes for dogs that otherwise would not have a home. And for those people that are looking for a purebred dog, let's say you wanted to get a purebred Rottweiler or a purebred German Shepherd. First of all, 25% of all dogs at shelters around the United States, 25% are purebred pedigree dogs. People are unaware of that. At your shelter, you'll find St. Bernards, Shepherds, Schnauzers, Cocker Spaniels, if that's important to you. The other thing that's real important is that besides that, there are rescue groups. For example, let's say I'm living in Los Angeles. I want to adopt a German Shepherd, and I did a few years ago. I went to Westside German Shepherd Rescue. This is a group that specializes in taking German Shepherds out of the shelters, out of the streets, and they have a location for them, and people can go adopt a German Shepherd. They have the same thing for collies and poodles. So if you're looking for a purebred dog, that's probably the best way to go. But there are some reputable breeders out there for those people that want to go to a breeder. However, my recommendation is always adopt a shelter dog, adopt a rescue dog, because when you save their lives, they know it, and they pay you back every day for the rest of theirs.
Awesome. I love it, love it, love it. I love everything everything that you're doing. Definitely have to have you back on the show. How can our Real Perspective listeners find out more about you and the good work that you're doing?
Well, they go to my website. It's real simple. It's thepetshow.com. Just remember to type in that THE. It's thepetshow.com or facebook.com/thepetshow, or they can tweet Warren Eckstein, or they can actually look at the Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund.org as well. So any one of those, if you go to any one of those sites, it'll send you over to the other one. And any help, I mean, you know, people, any help that people can give, especially for the Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund, is really warranted, because we save so many animals via the small. I'll give you a prime example. We just sent an organization $500. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but this organization was able to buy a new van, which doesn't mean like a lot. They were able, not a new van, but they were able to get the transmission in their old van fixed with the $500. Gives them the opportunity now to go back and forth and have all their rescue dogs spayed and neutered, because they had no way of transportation before that. So even a small donation like $500 to some of these organizations can make all the difference in the world.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Warren, for being on our show. Well, Real Perspectives listeners and you pet lovers out there, go to thepetshow.com. Find out everything that he's doing. I'm encouraging everyone also to give a monetary donation, again, to his organization, Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund. It's the Hugs and Kisses Animal Fund. I'm your host of Real Perspectives, LaTanya Moore. We seek real people with real issues and real solutions from real perspectives.